Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. John was standing with two of his disciples. And as he watched Jesus walk by, he said, "Behold, the Lamb of God." The two disciples heard what he said and followed Jesus. Jesus turned and saw them following him and said to them, "What are you looking for?" They said to him, "Rabbi," which translated means teacher, "where are you staying?" He said to them, "Come and you will see." So they went and saw where Jesus was staying and stayed with him that day. It was about 4 p.m. Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, was one of those two who heard John and followed Jesus. He first found his own brother, Simon, and told him, "We have found the Messiah," which is translated Christ. Then he brought him to Jesus and looked at him and said, "You are Simon, son of John. You will be called Cephas," which is translated Peter. The Gospel of the Lord. When I was 6 years old, my youngest brother, Rock, was born. And shortly after he was home and being cared for, I wanted to help. So I asked my mom about Diapers 101 so that I could help change my brother's diapers when necessary. I thought that was pretty cool. In those days, you had cloth diapers that had to be washed in a very particular way with lots of bleach. And I remember the little safety pins on one side where you clasped the pin in. They had a yellow duck's head. So I've got the pins and the diapers, and I'm putting my brother's diaper on. And as I'm finishing, he starts screaming like murder. I'm saying to myself, "What's wrong?" So I'm trying to figure it out. Is he hungry? What's going on? So I go to get my mom. So my mom takes one quick look. I ran him through with the pin. Praise you, Jesus. I'm sure he's had to go through therapy or something for years because of that, My poor brother, Rock. Nevertheless, his screaming did definitely get our attention and caused an intervention to help things. It seems to me that humanity is like a screaming baby right now in the time we live in. I see so much strife and conflict and confusion. There is so much of a feeling of tension around the world, and you wonder when or if something big is going to happen. It's like the baby is crying. It's like humanity is crying out for help. In our Old Testament reading today, a little boy named Samuel is called upon by God to be part of the solution, to be a prophet. And when he's told by his elder, Eli, "If you hear God calling, say, 'Speak, your servant is listening.'" And right after this, if you look in the passages that we use today, it's not quoted, but there's another verse right after what we quoted today in the Mass. It says this, "The Lord's presence came and was revealed, and the Lord said, I am about to do something that will cause the ears of everyone to ring. I'm about to do something that will cause the ears of everyone to ring. Can you hear the baby crying? John the Baptist is also living at such a time in his life and in his culture. Some would argue that the times now are not any worse than the times of before, but because of the media, we can be more public about it. I'm not sure about that, but what I will say is this: we have a technology that can make evil happen more quickly than ever before and on a larger scale. Whereas it took an army months to cross a continent, it now takes seconds to launch a missile. This is frightening. And so the child is crying and needs assistance. And so John the Baptist points to the solution for his time. He points and he says, "Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." Behold. That word behold alone, it means not just to look at, it's an old word. And it means more than just looking at. It means look and pay very close attention because something important is going on here. Behold, look at him. Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. And this call to behold has an imperative to it, which implies much more than a casual look or a glance. Look carefully and act. And so two of the disciples in John's, among John, two of them look at Jesus and they say, okay, we're following him, and they follow. This point of the gospel becomes a point of decision for all the readers, as well as these two disciples. Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. Who are you following? What is forming your life? So they follow Jesus, these two, Andrew and James. Jesus turns to them and he says, "What are you two looking for? What are you looking for?" You heard the call, "Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world." That's why you're here today. But what are you really looking for? The true need, somebody has to pull the pin out. Somebody has to free us from the pain. So I came looking for love. Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. A love without self-interest. I've come, he said, the Son of Man has come into the world to save the world. Not that the world would be judged, but God so loved the world, he gave his only Son as gift. I'm looking for a better life. And where I'm looking, I'm not finding it. Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. Because Jesus has come to give you life in abundance. Immortality. I'm looking for security. Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. Jesus says, in my Father's house there are many rooms of security for you. Then the disciples say to Jesus, now discovering that he can satisfy their needs, they're beginning to see that he's what they're looking for. They're understanding that no one has been able to do this to them, to fulfill their needs. So they say, where are you staying? I'd like to go with you. And it's interesting, you've all responded because you've come to find where Jesus is staying. You find him in this church, but even more, you found him in this assembly, which becomes a sanctuary for all of us. A place where those seeking to behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world can care for each other. This is why hospitality at Sunday Mass is vital. The people we warmly welcome within the first 5 minutes of their walking in the church will make up their mind whether or not this is the place to behold the Lamb of God, and you have everything to do with that. So that this place can be a place of mercy, a harbor of mercy. Where are you staying? He says, come and see. And so as they come to see, they realize that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus has also made another promise. No one who comes to me will I ever reject. No one. This is a fantastic statement. No one who comes to me will I ever reject. There is no person here who is capable of sinning so heinously and greatly that God will reject you if you come to him. You cannot defeat God's mercy and generosity if you come looking for it. Jesus also is announced as the gatekeeper. He's the one who guards the pearly gates, if you want to use that example. And given the previous statement that no one who comes will I ever reject, you have a generous master who's waiting to open the door for you if you want to come. Jesus announces himself as the bread of life. Behold the Lamb of God, we say before we receive this bread of life. Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. As the bread of life, Jesus feeds us with what we're really looking for, eternity. Life in all its abundance. The body, the blood, the soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ to be given to us. So we come to behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. This Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world is vital because the strife, the conflict, the stress, it's all rooted in sin. It's all rooted into a selfishness that wants to hurt another person rather than help. For my personal benefit, I'm willing to do anything, no matter how much I hurt somebody else. This is sin. And when we look at the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world, we see him on a cross where he's saying, I won't hurt you, but I'll do anything, even if it hurts me, to help you. Isn't that the attitude that sets us free? Isn't that what we all need to show to one another? Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. Andrew found his brother because he was so enthused about this news. Andrew turned around and found his brother, who happened to be Saint Peter. Andrew invited him to come and see. Think about that for a minute. If Andrew didn't go out to Peter and invite him, we might not have had our first pope in Peter. I'm sure God would have found a way to do it, but it says something about the power of one who thinks they're an insignificant individual and with their small voice make a very loud proclamation, not realizing what they're doing. Can you imagine the power of inviting somebody to Jesus? Father, I'm not skilled in theology or eloquence. I don't think I can do this. I'm going to tell you what you can do. Every single one of you is qualified to talk about how you feel about your faith, how you feel about the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. And no one can argue with your feelings, can they? They're yours. No one can argue with that. They may disagree, but they can't argue with it. And so when we say things like, you know, it feels really good to have a place of security in my church, that makes me feel really good, that tells people something. Those of you with children, you all sent a very powerful message in all your neighborhoods this morning. You're loading your kids into the vans, the minivans, and the cars, and all your neighbors are looking at you saying, what the heck are they doing on Sunday morning with all those kids? Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. You send a message. I don't know how often I hear it from people. Father, I feel so good when I go to Mass. I feel great when I walk into this church. It just makes me feel like God's presence is here. Or I'll hear things like this. If I don't go to Mass, my week doesn't seem to work right. It doesn't seem to make sense. That's because when we come to Mass, we experience the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. His grace fills us, and it gives us the power and the force necessary to go from week to week. It's interesting that this Eucharist, the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world, is also available every day in this church and in a number of churches throughout the city. And many people find it necessary and helpful to go to daily Mass. So they desire to behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. Imagine the power that Andrew had by sharing his feelings about Jesus. It wasn't a theological discussion. It was simply a testimony of what he did for me and how I feel about him. Andrew reports to his brother Simon Peter, we have found the Messiah. In the midst of all our chaos, in the midst of the unrest, the social violence we see today, in the midst of all this, someone must point to the Messiah. That's you. Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world, is what we cry out. We need to be open to this mercy of God that is being given to us. This mercy that cries out to satisfy the need of the world and to stop the crying children from their wailing and give them the balm of his mercy. Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world.
Regina Celi, letare, alleluia, qui aquam meruisti portare, alleluia, resurrexit sicut dixit, alleluia, ora pro nobis Deum, alleluia.